Natural podcast, where we bring awareness of sustainable health in a business hustle space. Natural podcast is perfect for the high-performing, business-minded individuals who want to work with their biochemistry to achieve success and optimal health. It's Friday, which means it's time for French strength facts about health, business, and overall success. In today's episode, we talk to Joseph, or Joe Templin. He's a bioreform physician, physicist, financial planner, startup founder, and autodidactic polymath, best described as a Swiss Army knife. Joe Templin has invested the past 2.5+ decades to helping others reach their financial potential as a planner, trainer, mentor, and creator. Some interesting facts about Joe are he's worked as an intelligence officer and was assistant intelligence director. He also attended Johns Hopkins University starting at 13. And he is a diehard Yankees fan. Welcome to the Natural Podcast, Joe.
I'm glad to be here. This is going to be fun.
I'm absolutely excited. So you're a diehard Yankees fan?
Absolutely. I went to the opening game at the new stadium. So something that I tell my kids about, I'll be able to tell my grandkids about. It's one of those things that is genetic in my family.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. That's absolutely amazing. And you're an intelligence officer.
I was for a while, caught a bunch of bad guys, and it's a skill set that I still employ in various capacities at times to help individuals or to stop bad guys from doing stuff.
I love that. That's absolutely amazing. It's all about like problem finding, investigating. I love that. I mean, I do that as a naturopath every single day.
Yeah, it's solving problems and it's finding the noise in the signal. And if you're looking, you can find the patterns, whether it's in somebody committing financial fraud or it's somebody making decisions that ultimately lead to bad outcomes for their life. So that first component of being able to observe and assess is critical, whether you're building your business or you're working on your physical health, your mental health, or trying to improve relationships with other individuals.
Such a good way of putting it, getting rid of that noise. So Joe, you've done so many things in your life, right? Let's go into a few, or if you want, let's talk about a few turning points that got you to where you are today. What's made Joe today?
One of the things was that I had good parents. You can never underestimate the importance of good parents and then good influences coming after that, whether it was my high school cello teacher or my Taekwondo master, or the individuals who I choose to spend my time with now, most of whom are better than me and more successful in different ways. And so I am trying to grow through my exposure to them. So that is one thing. But some of the biggest semi-recent turning points was when my 11-year-old son was diagnosed as ADHD and autistic roughly 5 years ago. And it's like, wow, whoa, major change. And he learning to be able to interact with somebody who is non-neuronormal and understand what's going on in his brain and working with him to be able to still succeed, even though he doesn't process information the same way that most other people do, has forced me to study psychology more, study communication more, literally get down on my knees and look at things from his level and try and understand better. And so having that, left hook come out of nowhere and smack you in the face in some ways has made it so that I am much more committed in terms of helping him grow and develop. And that's made me better as an instructor, as a leader, as a business owner, and as a coach, because there are few things that you can do where you improve yourself where it doesn't have a carryover effect into other areas.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. And how beautiful is it to have such beautiful children, and especially I see that individuals who have autism, ADHD, they have so much to teach us. Maybe life is the way that they're living is the way that we should live, not the way that we should live that we're pushing onto them.
And it's understanding and learning from them and having a balance, because society is set up in a particular way. So to be able to navigate it, he needs to learn certain things, various coping mechanisms, but it's also taught me some things that have helped out in a lot of ways. For example, I've got a really good friend who's a business founder who his son is a little more autistic than my son and a couple of years older. So Jason Eichenholz, the CTO of Luminar Technologies, has been a friend for decades, but a good influence in this way. And one of the things that we were talking about that I use with my son, that I'm using more now in business and other situations, is storytelling with. So, for example, an autistic individual has a very linear mindset. If this happens, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens. Which is part of the reason why they tend to make really good engineers. But if things change that, then they very often are not prepared for it. So we pre-play it in a lot of ways. If this happens, for example, if we want to go to your favorite restaurant for your birthday, what do we do if it's closed? What's our backup plan column? Okay, if we go to your favorite restaurant and they don't have nachos that night, what's the backup plan so that we don't have a meltdown and you can still enjoy it? And taking the couple of minutes to do the what if game with him allows him to be more set to be able to go through things and have a little bit more flexibility. But it's one of those things that when I'm coaching a business owner or if I'm going to the gym, what if I can't get on this machine? What's my backup plan? Oh, what happens if in your business something unexpected happens? The client says no. The bank doesn't come through with the loan. As Jocko Willink would say, good. But it says, okay, what next? How can we make sure that we're dealing with it? And that's one way of developing resiliency, which is something that leads to much better relationships and mental health overall, too.
Yeah, I love that. With businesses, asking them what if, and we don't really ask ourselves that much that often. Like, it's kind of like, no, it's not going to happen, but it's good to prepare ourselves. Like in business, like, yes, this is the plan for you to roll out this product, this service, but what if this happens? That is such an absolutely amazing point. So Joe, what is it that you do on a daily basis? Do you help people with businesses? Are you financial planning? Are you coaching, mentoring?
Yes, it's really all of that. And I say that I'm a business Swiss Army knife because somebody else said that's why I am. Because if I'm working with a client on their business, we'll be talking everything from staffing to marketing to how they're going to grow their sales to all these different factors. So we do business process, we do documentation, we do psychology, we do lots of different psychology, whether it's sales psychology or motivational psychology internally. So it's this entire gamut. And really it comes down to, if you ask me what I do, I help people. I help people clarify and achieve their goals and objectives. And so everything else is just tools and methodologies around that concept of helping these individuals or organizations achieve what it is that they want.
And there's so many tools out there, and we'll go through a few later on, which I'm excited about, and even one that you've made yourself. So I'm absolutely excited about. But before we get into that, here on Natural Health Podcast, we talk a lot about success and health. And in my view, they're just interlinked together. I mean, if you're not healthy, you're not going to be successful and so forth, right? But I want to find out, what does success and what does optimal health look like for Joe?
So success to me might be a little weird in that it's not a destination. Yes, I want to make the New York Times bestseller list this year. If I don't, oh well. It's a very stoic approach to things because I've done the best that I could in terms of creating the book and in terms of being able to create a community, to market it, to help get it out there, to help individuals and grow their lives. So it'd be nice to have that accolade, but my life is going to be wonderful either way because it's the process of working towards something spectacular. So I'm a martial artist by background. So even though I've won international titles and have all the trophies and all that, the going into the ring to compete is literally the tiniest bit of it. It's all the months and years before that of daily training, of competing with myself, of improvement, of knowing I need to do this so that I can do whatever down the road. And then going through that and having the multiplicity of skills and disciplines that I can use in other things. It's my martial arts that helped me become an ultra runner. It is being able to tap into the depths of emotional strength from things like that have helped me in terms of being able to get through the marathon of my special needs child and my older son having a couple of health issues, mental health issues, and being able to go through those sort of things. So the process of working towards something spectacular, something meaningful, and enjoying the steps and the journey along the way is, to me, success, because every single day I can build a success story in little blocks. And yes, there's failures every single day. If you're not failing, then you're not trying. But every single day I can point to a handful of successes from that day to feel good about.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely love that definition. It's not the destination, it's the journey there. And like you said, it's awesome to have those medals, awesome to have those titles, but getting there is the joy and learning so many things about yourself. So let's get into today's topic, which I'm really excited about. Why should you work harder on yourself than your job? And this is exactly what Jim Rohn said. And why is it so important? Because so many individuals, business individuals, they're working 14 hours a day on their business, and sometimes even in their business, not even on their business. And they don't have time for themselves, either to go to the gym, like you said, to make a good meal, to spend time with their friends, family, kids, loved ones, even other business individuals. So why is it so important to actually work harder on yourself?
There's always a way to squeeze out extra time. For example, when I drive into the office in the morning, I'm playing podcasts, and I was actually listening to some Jim Rohn earlier this morning while I was driving on in. I have to drive, that's 25 minutes each way. Guess what? I'm going to do something to maximize that time. When I'm doing my 15-minute mini workout when I first get up, guess what? I'm playing something else educational or motivational. You're brushing your teeth, what are you listening to? So there's little ways to be able to multitask and squeeze additional stuff in. Yes, it's not as efficient and effective as if you could allocate a full 45 minutes to sit there and just do that alone, but life's busy. So washing dishes, listening to something, or helping the kids with the homework at the same time. Okay, teaching them how to cook so that they understand having healthy meals and how it impacts them for their development long range. And Jim Rohn talked about working on yourself. There's a saying that I have: I wear my black belt on my soul, not my waist. Right? The process that I went through to become a black belt and become a higher level black belt, or to run my marathons and ultra marathons or build my businesses, are ingrained in me. They can't be taken away. I've had multiple businesses fail, or regulation changes, or I had a business partner who stole all the money from the company, and I had to rebuild from literally less than nothing. And so having this capability to know I can do this again. I am not dependent on the big boss in the corner. I can always walk on out and be okay. And one of the things that Jim Rohn talks about is work incredibly hard in your business. I mean, do more than what you're paid for, because not only is the organization benefiting, but you are benefiting. You're getting those skills. You're getting that mindset. You're getting that reputation of excellence. So if you spend an hour a day developing yourself in your physical, spiritual, emotional, those components, which are very much overlapping, if you spend an hour a day doing that, including the weekends, because there's no days off, then you, in the 3 or 4 years, have done the equivalent of a full-time job on yourself. That is what makes you promotable, or gives you the skill set and confidence in your skill set to be able to go on out and do what you need to do on your own.
Yeah. The thing that you said in there, which was really important, is that you're not dependable on X, Y, and Z, and that you have that black belt around your soul, and you're able to pick it up because you've probably gained, like you said, you're an army Swiss knife. You've gained those skills. And that's because you've probably been excellent in most of the jobs that you've done. You've taken something from that one. You've taken something
I didn't
from
start
that
as
one.
excellent. I mean, I'm not this, freak of nature that's, incredibly gifted or anything. I'm an Irish farm kid. I learned to work hard. Okay. If you don't work, you don't eat. And I like to eat. I really like to eat. So you work hard, and that's just in my nature. And a work ethic can be developed. I mean, anybody can get up 15 minutes earlier and start doing something, whether it's working out or cracking a book or watching an educational video. Everybody's got that capacity. You don't have to be, a super freak or, ungodly gifted to put forth basic effort. And just like I was an asthmatic kid. So, I mean, I'm a martial artist and an ultra runner because I made myself that way. Just like good old Teddy Roosevelt up here. Teddy Roosevelt was a scrawny asthmatic kid. And his father told him, Theodore, or TR, you have the brain, but you don't have the body to go with it. And Teddy Roosevelt decided that he would rust out or wear out instead of rust out. And so he started doing everything he could to maximize time. Now, he was a very, very intellectual individual, but he is well known for being a dynamic and robust leader in all capacities. And what he did, whether it was San Juan Hill or going out and being a cowboy, getting shot and still giving his speech, that is because he developed the body through using his mind. And he made the consistent effort day after day, week after week, year after year to create Teddy Roosevelt. We can all do that. Maybe you don't want to be a rough rider. Maybe you just want to be able to do a 5-kilometer race. Maybe you just want your pants to fit a little bit better. Maybe you just want to be able to play with your kids without getting exhausted. Maybe you want to be able to play the ukulele or whatever. It is a reflection of your efforts on it. And so when you work harder on yourself, you then can take these skills or these meta skills, really, okay? Learning how to practice as a martial artist made me a very good business person. It's made me an okay public speaker, okay? So taking these concepts and then reapplying them across other parameters of your life is one of the ways that you can unlock your inner excellence.
I love that. Unlocking your inner excellence leads us to the next one, which is everyday excellence, right? And that is the book that you've written. I know I have a copy. I'm looking at it right now. I absolutely love it. So you wrote that book, A Daily Guide to Growing. What was the push behind it? What made you be like, you know what, I'm going to write it and I'm going to publish it and I'm going to call it Everyday Excellence? What came behind this? There's always a story behind a book.
So one of the things is that I'm a sponge when it comes to learning things. When I was 10 years old, I told my mom I wanted to learn everything in the world. And she said, okay, well, you better get to work then. And so I'm constantly trying to understand. I've got a very high curiosity factor. It gets me in trouble sometimes, but it has gotten me out of trouble a lot of times too. So I learn lots of things. I'm very, very eclectic in terms of my interests. And so I just keep trying to pick up information from everybody that I interact with so that I can personally grow. And my one friend who's an attorney, a couple of months before I started writing the book, was like, dude, you're not a business guy. You're not a consultant. You're like a guru. I'm like, yeah, right, whatever, Eric. And, we laughed about it and everything. And then I'm in my weight room a couple of mornings later, and I'm throwing around some kettlebells. I'm listening to Jocko Willink on one device and blasting some Black Sabbath. Yes, I love heavy metal. I used to have a mullet on the other one. And all of a sudden, it hit me, this Satori moment. And, every day, I'm coming down and working out and doing my martial arts and all this stuff. Every single day I try to learn. Every day is excellence. And it hit me like that. And I put down the kettlebell. I went upstairs and I dumped out the title and the subtitle, Everyday Excellence, A Daily Guide to Growing. And then I just took a bunch of notes on it. And then a couple of days later, I actually started formally writing it because I came up with the idea of the structure of having a quote, discussion around it, action items so that people can be forced to actually improve on a daily basis. And Then came the 1,000+ hours of writing it. That was the result of 35+ years worth of researching it.
Yeah, I love it. So tell us the book. It's not like I haven't seen a book structure like this before. Tell us, how do we use this book? Because so to give the audience a bit of an idea, it goes by month, and there's like January the 1st, there's a quote, then there's discussion around, then there's an action item, and it goes all the way till the end of the year.
Well, let's actually use an example.
Let's do it.
Let's take your birthday.
Let's do it.
So that is
the 24th of December.
24th of December. So the quote for that day is, "When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace." Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix, by the way, was the first rock album that I owned. I had Are You Experienced It? I stole it from my mom. Okay. And so here's a little bit of the discussion. I am definitely not some crunchy granola hippie. I'm definitely a capitalist and like to be compensated when I create value, which I strive to do in all things. But that doesn't make me greedy and certainly not power hungry. And it goes on, and it talks about business, talks about Gandalf being offered the One Ring and turning it down because of the power. Talks about being a Cub Scout leader and empowering my people around me to become better leaders so that it's not all on me and they get the opportunity to grow through those experiences. And it goes on, we discuss a little bit, and the last couple of lines are love over power. Give power to others to have greater growth and richer experience. Give more and get more. And then there's the action item. Every single day has an action item because the Stoics used to talk about pen and ink philosophers, people who just sat there and wrote and thought, as opposed to doing. Okay, the world gets better not because we sit here and think, but because we get off our butts and go and help other people. We build businesses. We get healthier. We teach kids. We go and work in our community. That's the way the world improves. So getting off your butt, I hope I don't offend anybody, get off your butt and actually doing stuff, whether it's on yourself to improve you or in your community to improve your community, is how stuff actually improves. So the action item on your birthday is, do you obsess over and try to hoard power? How can you empower others and thus garner more rewards for everyone?
I love that. That's absolutely amazing.
So what I tell people is, if you're getting the book anytime other than right at the start of the calendar year, get the book, read the introduction, do the first 2 or 3 days in January so you get a feel for it and you understand what your goals for the year are and things like that. And then just jump to today and do whatever today's assignment is. Read that and take action on it. And then the next day, do the next day. And the next day, do the next one. And every day it's different. So you're working on different aspects of yourself, and whether it's communication, personal health, mental health, diet, how you're focused at work, so whatever it is. And it's very much like the Oracle of Delphi in that you will take from this what is important to you, as opposed to what I take from it. And I read my book every single day, actually. And I apply and I do my action item every single day, just like anybody else, because I still have a long way to go in terms of my growth and to be excellent. So
I love that it has an action item, because there's so many books that I've read, there's so many things that I've done. And then you just sit there and you go, what do I do? Or you go, oh, I will do this. And then you get distracted and then life takes over. Whereas this, at the end of it, has an action item and you go, okay, I have to do this. And I read one of them. One of them was like, throw out a piece of clothing that no longer serves you, or something along those lines. I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like, there's some absolutely amazing action items. But what made you choose the one specifically on those days? Was it just random? Was there anything behind it?
So there's a couple of days where I intended something on it. So like on Valentine's Day, I have a quote about love. On St. Patrick's Day, I have a quote about being Irish. On July 4th, I have a quote about independence.
Is that action item have a beer? No.
It doesn't. It's actually all about the love of words and poetry. Because and I don't want people having beer because then I don't get as much. That's me being very greedy there, and I apologize for it.
I love it.
So I had a couple of days like this, and then each day's quote sort of relates to the next day's quote. So there's a evolution on it. And so you'll work on one thing one day and then something a little different the next day, and then something a little bit different the next day. And throughout the year, we actually come back to a couple of the ideas to reinforce them. So it's very organic in that way. So, and there are some hidden Easter eggs in some ways. Like, for example, in 1 month, I'm not going to tell you when, but I have a quote from the philosopher Calvin. And then I have a quote from the philosopher Hobbes. And then I have a quote from Bill Watterson, who wrote the comic strip Calvin and Hobbes. And so, yes, I am revealing one of the secrets inside the book, but there are many things like that throughout it. So if people go through it for a couple of years in a row, they're going to see very different things every time they go through the book. But eventually they'll pick up on a lot of these hidden gems.
Yeah, I love that. And it's not just kind of like a calendar book that you just do, for example, for 2022. It's one that you do every year, like you said, because it's kind of like someone listening to this podcast right now. If they listen to this podcast in a month or 2 months, they'll hear something different or they'll pick up something different. So it'll be the same for the book. So in regards to, everyone's talking about morning routines, right? Mm-hmm. Is this kind of like, would you include this book in the morning routine, or how would you include it in your everyday?
When do you take your multivitamin?
Depends if I have to have it with food or without food.
But generally it's done in the morning.
Done, right. Correct. Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in habit stacking that James Clear talks about in the book Atomic Habits. So everybody gets up in the morning, right? We get up, we get out of bed.
I believe so.
Yeah. So how about if we start and stacking habits off of that? So for example, my morning routine is I get up, I get out of bed, I grab my half cup of coffee that I have sitting there, and I turn on the coffee pot to make the coffee for the day. Okay, so I have that half cup that is basically priming the pump for me. Okay, and I take my medicine, my supplements and all that, and then I sit down and I read a couple of things. I read The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday, and then I read my page in the book. I sit there and I do my action item if it's something that I can do right then. Some of them include things like smile at 5 people today. So obviously, since I'm living alone, I don't have anybody to smile to at that point. So I take and try and get that done. Then I go and I do my workout. And one of the things about working out is that it gets your body moving, gets your mind more functional. There's certain routines I do every single day. For example, every day I do 100 punches each hand as a martial artist. And so I have done this now for over 35 years. I have thrown over 10 million punches with my hand, each hand. So I don't have to think about it, but I still do that most fundamental basic thing that I learned on my first day in Taekwondo every single day, because it is the building blocks of everything else. And so I do that, and it basically programs my mind and body, and now I'm ready to go. So I write, and then I literally sit down, or I work out, and then I literally sit down and I write. Even though the book is done, it's never done. We're always going to be working on revising it. But I still sit down and I write every single morning when I've just worked out, because morning is my best time. And right after a workout, you got the blood flowing, you're the most creative, you're able to go, and it's early morning. Nobody else is up to bother me. The world has yet to disrupt my day. So I do it because that's one of the most important things that I can do. So I get it out of the way early so that every single day I get a win. Doesn't matter if I wrote 2 lines or 5 pages. Every single day I have created stuff that hopefully will help the world.
Yeah, habit stacking. I love that. Absolutely love that, because like you said, everyone wakes up, everyone washes their face, brushes their teeth in the morning, and then you can just stack between them or on top of them, and it's just done. And you got to win.
Yeah, because, I do this and then this naturally flows. The other thing around that, though, is habit cracking. And James Clear did not use that phrase, but it sounds good. So habit cracking. The best way to crack a bad habit is to eliminate the things around it that lead to it. So, for example, in Atomic Habits, he talks about this one woman who gave up smoking. And then, 5 years, no problem. Then she goes out riding horses with her friends, And that was a psychological trigger, and she wanted to smoke, and she actually did light one up. So eliminating those things that lead to the bad habits, this is one of the reasons why alcoholics remove all the alcohol from their house, and they eliminate some people from their lives because those people lead to bad things. Okay. If you have like an app on your phone that takes you to places that you shouldn't be, or into relationships that you shouldn't be, or around things like that, just take it off the phone. Okay. Then there's no temptation. You don't need any willpower because you can't execute on it. If you want to lose weight, guess what? Don't have Cheetos in the house. Get rid of the junk food, and you don't have to use any willpower to make good decisions because the default is the good decision because there are no bad ones around. And Kahneman and Thaler actually got Nobel Prizes in economics for this theory.
I love it. It's so simple, yet so effective.
Right? Now, it's not necessarily easy all the time. And so that's one of the things that we try and do is reduce the activation energy around it to make it easier, whether it's having an accountability partner. And by the way, a little kid is a great accountability partner because there's certain things that I'm trying to achieve, and my 11-year-old knows that if we achieve them, we're going to go to Disney. So every single time he sees me, Dad, did you do X? Did you do X? Did you do it? It's like, buddy, I just saw you 5 minutes ago. No, I haven't completed this massive goal in the past 5 minutes, but he's reminding me constantly. And so am I going to tell him, hey, buddy, no, we're not going to Disney because your father did not do what he said he was going to do? Absolutely not.
Yeah,
okay?
no.
So that's why people have running partners or lifting partners, or in business, they have accountability partners that they share their numbers with and review with. This is why people have mentors or boards of advisors. People have boards of advisors for their business. Why don't we have them for our life?
Can you imagine?
I mean, I have people that I'm held accountable to in different ways, where it's my running or my martial arts or my diet or things like that. And so I create these accountability loops that help keep me on track. And I'm not perfect. I mean, I've been struggling for the past week. I freely admit it. It's been a tough week for me. And yet I'm still getting done at least the basics. Okay. So did I get my full 5-mile run in that I wanted? No, but I got out the door and got something. Okay. Yeah. Did I accomplish all the writing I wanted? No. But you know what? I got my daily minimal requirement and I got some extra time with my kids. So we're not perfect. But if we can be better than we were, then we end up ultimately having a more successful life. There's something I mentioned in the book is that the average person has between 40,000 and 80,000 thoughts a day. 75% of those tend to be negative, and over 80% of them are repetitive or routine. So if you can arrange your routines so that they're leading to good things, that should also help lead to better thoughts. If you can change of that, let's say it's 50,000. If you can change a couple hundred micro decisions a day to the better, over time, that means a tremendous improvement in outcomes for people's lives.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned also the reality of, having that week where it's kind of like, I did just a bare bit minimum, but you know what? You did it. And it's not like you just went one day, I didn't succeed, and then everything crashes, and we see that happen in business individuals where they have these goals and they don't achieve them, and then they just go downhill, and then they go back to their addictions. They go back to bad habits. They go back to, putting themselves down and so forth. But failure happens, right?
Yeah. Jordan Peterson says, okay, so you screwed up. You're not perfect. You're human. Instead of going and you had one cigarette, smoking 5 cartons of cigarettes and going back to smoking all the time. All right, you screwed up. Tomorrow, don't smoke. Okay. And if you can reduce the number of cigarettes that you're consuming by like 80%, 75%, that's still a tremendous improvement. You're not perfect, but you're better than what you were. And if we can keep that idea in mind, because as you had mentioned at the beginning, I started college at 13 years old. I used to be wicked smart. But there's this thing with gifted children that we're expected to be perfect, and we're all going to be doctors by the time that we're 22 years old. And, I didn't want to go into the medical career. I was a physicist and did some cool stuff there before going into business. But one of the things that the former gifted child needs to learn is that it's okay to not be perfect. And this is one of the things that athletes need to learn, because when you're the high school athlete, you're the best there is. And very often it comes naturally. So you don't have to work, and you're not necessarily competing for a roster spot against other people who are as good or better than you. And so it's a true shock, whether it's when they start going up in terms of the levels of competition, or when that smart kid, not even the gifted kid, but just, the smart kid that was all easy, goes to college, and all of a sudden everybody's wicked smart and they have to study. So you don't have to be perfect, but do what you can and learn how to be better.
That's such a good point, because so many expectations put on individuals, especially people who start their own business and are business professionals. They've got so much, like, you need to succeed, you need to achieve, your balance needs to look this good, every year needs to be revenue, and so forth. So yes, it is, like you said, you're not perfect.
Right. But you need to, one, understand what's going on, because very often people aren't keeping score properly, especially in business. And two, you need to break it down to, what do I need to do today? And I've got a friend who's got some very, very bad anxiety. Yeah. And one of the things that I talk with her about is, let's break things down into the smallest manageable chunk. Okay. So, and then you can build your success, like building with Legos. You build these little bits here, you build these little bit things. So if you have a plan to do this little thing, you should not be anxious about that little thing. Okay. And then that little thing leads to another little build, to another little build. And all of a sudden you're running marathons or building businesses or writing a bestseller or what have you. And so it's breaking that down and understanding, okay, I don't have to be overwhelmed by all this. I don't have to be overwhelmed by life. I just need to take care of this little thing now and not stress out too much.
Don't be overwhelmed by life. That's like, take a breath on that one, hey? Don't be overwhelmed by life. I love that. So we spoke about habits and morning routines and habit stacking, and and not putting so much pressure on yourself, but still achieving. What, in your opinion, what is the best investment a person can make?
In themselves, always in themselves. Because whether it's getting an advanced degree that makes you more employable long range, whether it's getting additional skills outside of your normal degree, whether it's learning to speak or to code or do graphic design or these other things, that gives you a broader skill set. And so if things change, you can adapt easier. It's like, if somebody's just a boxer and they fight somebody who is a complete martial artist, the complete martial artist will stand out at leg range and kick them, and the boxer can't do anything. Or they'll get in too close for him to punch, and they'll apply judo techniques on him and throw, basically fold the clothes of the person in them. So having an additional skill set, one, helps you out, but two, it keeps your mind focused on that growth mindset. I mean, when people graduate from university or college, I tell them, don't stop learning. You're in that mode. Keep reading. The average American, after they finish their education, reads one book a year. Like 25% of them don't read a single book, and another 25% read one book a year. Why are you starting to turn your brain off? Because as we get older, you can offset the cognitive decline by having neuroplasticity, by continuing to learn new skills, whether it's learning to play an instrument or cook or paint or martial art or to dance or any of these things. By learning a new language, by studying. These are things that keep your brain young for an extended period of time. I mean, my dad is 81 years old, and he retired at 80 from his job, from his consulting firm. And he started picking up playing bridge at 78, I think it was. And this is how he stays mentally sharp. And he's incredibly competitive. And my old advisor's wife, who died a couple of years ago, even after she went blind in her early 90s, she still played bridge. She just had Dr. Block tell her what cards were played and what cards were in her hand, and she could still keep it going. So mentally, Rita was there all the way. And this is one of the things that people in our 50s, 40s, 30s, even our 20s, we should be laying the groundwork for it now. Same way with your health. My master used to say, you dig your grave with your teeth. Okay, so if you're eating 5 donuts a day. I love donuts, I freely admit. I love my donuts. But if you're doing that, that's going to come and bite you down the road. Okay? So work out. The muscle mass that you start losing when you turn 40-ish years old, a rate of 1% to 2% per year, is going to make you weak and brittle bone down the road. So you start offsetting that as soon as you can. And people even in their 50s and 60s who start doing some weightlifting help actually reverse that trend. And they're stronger, longer, have better overall life. And so it's these little things of keeping the mind, body, and spirit, which gets overlooked very often, young and healthy and dynamic.
Yeah, you've put it all together in like this little summary. I love that. I absolutely love that. Yeah, we have to work on ourselves, and your master said it well that, you dig your grave with your bite, what goes into your mouth. But it's also interesting. It's not, what goes into your mouth, what goes into your mind, who you're exposed to, what you're exposed to, the information, what you read, what you don't read. And yeah, it's crazy hearing that the average American reads 1 book a year. And yeah, because we're so used to just sitting down and working so hard in our business that we don't have time to work on ourselves and reading self-development books and actually, having a excellent part of ourselves, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically.
Everybody's got a smartphone, okay? You can go and use YouTube or Audible or any of these other things and go for a 5-minute walk a couple of times a day, listening to something that's going to either grow your spirit or your brain while you are out there walking, getting your blood pumping and offsetting the physical impact of sitting around all day.
Yeah.
Okay?
100%.
Do that 3 or 4 times throughout the day. That's 20 minutes of walking. Is it as good as going out and working out hard for an hour a day? No, but it's better than nothing.
100%.
And so it's these little choices, these micro decisions, these little things that then you can do a little bit more. Then you can do a little more. And when you look back over 6 months, you'd be like, wow, I've come a long way.
Yeah. So in your opinion, investing on ourselves is the best investment. But how important is the action after you've learned something? Because with your book, even we've got, you've got a quote, we've got, discussion, learning, and so forth. And then there's action. So how important is that action?
That is critical, because there's a saying, practice makes permanent. So if you're going to do things that are meant to improve you, like something as simple as smiling at 5 people a day. Okay, when you smile, it causes the other person to want to smile. It activates their mirror neurons, and they're going to smile. And when you smile, it drops your cortisol levels. It increases your dopamine and serotonin. It makes you happier. It literally increases your cognitive ability for a couple of minutes, especially if I can get you to laugh. That's one of my goals always, is to get people to laugh, because then for the next 15 minutes, you're actually much more productive and happier and all that. But if you can do that, and then that person has a slightly better day, if they smile at somebody else, then they smile at somebody else. You get this real butterfly effect of it spreading on out, this positive ripple. And so having that action could actually rebound back to you, because you'll run into somebody else later in the day who smiles at you because 10 people ago you smiled at somebody else. And it creates this positive feedback loop. And most of the action items are really simple. They take 1 to 3 minutes to do. Like if you're angry at somebody, write their name down on a piece of paper and why you're angry with them. Then take it, crumple up, and throw it in the garbage to get rid of that anger. Okay, that takes almost no time. And it seems really stupid, but there's a lot of psychology around that action. Okay, so doing little things like that have these massive effects throughout our day.
Yeah, I just read the action item for today, and the action item is get your calendar, schedule some you time in the next week, something that the only focus is your physical, mental, emotional rest and recovery. Yeah. I love that. That's amazing. And even if you just do that and you read the book, you've changed your life, literally.
Exactly. And, that me time, that literally could be the amount of time for a cup of tea, of just sitting there with the phone turned off, looking out the window at the birds. You know what? That's going to make the rest of your day a lot better. And people that you interact with are going to have better days because of that.
100%, 100%. It's kind of like we live our life sometimes on autopilot, and then something happens and we wake up and we go, "Ooh, okay, wow, the last month has just been to-do list, to-do list, to-do list, order." And it's like, when do I take that time to breathe and actually work on myself, right?
Yeah. And so this is one of the things that I coach people in business on is every 6 to 8 weeks, scheduling time off. And like I had a business coach 25 years ago who's like, you need to take a week all the time. I'm like, I'm not taking a week. You don't know me. That's not in my nature. Okay. But I will take a half day. And it might be take the kids to the amusement park. It might be to go shooting with my brother. It might be to go for a hike on my own with nobody else around. But every 5-6 weeks, I'm going to take a half day like that of me time. Because who's the most important person to my success? This guy. So this guy needs to make sure that he's doing the preventative maintenance on his mind, body, and spirit, or else it's going to break.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely love that. And anyone who's listening, imagine if you took, like one day off every 2 months and it was just for you, or half a day every month, and you just did how much more, because I've read so many studies about how much more creative you are when you are in nature, how much more creative you are when you step away from the laptop, step away from whatever you do. All these ideas pop in. Like you might get that idea that just boosts your business to the next level.
Right. Or it might be that it just allows you to then go back the next day or that you're working and work 5% harder. So if you take off a half a day out of 40, that's 2.5% of time lost. But if you're coming back 5% stronger, and even if it declines over a week or two, you're still going to have a lot more output of whatever measure you want because you took the time to allow the mind and body and spirit to rest and recover.
I love that. I love that percentage. That's absolutely amazing. So what would be some practical tips for the audience to incorporate to actually work harder on themselves? I mean, one of them clearly would be to get your book, have it on their bedside table in the morning, wake up and read it. What practical tips would you be able to provide them with?
One of the things that I would say is find a way to get more movement in your day that you enjoy. Okay. So like if you like to dance, put on a song and just dance around like a fool. Okay. If you like to go for walks, get up an extra 5 minutes early and walk around the block a couple of times. These little things to, one, get your body moving a little bit more, because that's also going to, as we talked about, increase your creativity and everything else. And then two, find something that you can learn from or get motivated by in small chunks. Like if there's a particular like YouTube channel that you like, that, and a lot of these things are 5 to 8 minutes long, okay? Find a couple of these things that you enjoy so that you're getting one of these hits basically every single day at some point. You get that little bit of physical, you get that little bit of mental, emotional, and it doesn't seem like a lot, but it will be a big impact if you look at it over a 3-month period.
Yeah, I love that. It's the stacking, exactly like you said, and the results come with it. Absolutely love that. So look, to finish off, I ask all my guests, as this is the Natural Health Podcast, what is your best kept natural health hack, something that you might do and that just keeps you at optimal health all the time?
Other than reading my book and doing what it says, really the one thing is having a growth mindset. And the vast majority of people out there actually don't have this. So it might take some time to develop, which is part of the reason for these micro decisions and these little things that you're working on. But we can be better. Okay. I'm a living example of this. I was a scrawny asthmatic kid, and, I'm not going to take my shirt off, but, I actually do have some musculature at this point, and I can, succeed physically in a lot of ways. I was not a good musician, but I practiced and practiced. I wasn't a great natural born communicator. In fact, I was in speech therapy for years and years as a kid. Okay. But I wanted to be able to communicate better. I wanted to understand psychology better so that I could communicate and understand some of my friends and try and help people that need it. So having this growth mindset of knowing that no matter what's going on in the world, I can get better. And even if I only improve my little universe slightly, the world is still better for that. And if I can improve my little universe and help one or two people per day, whether it's just by getting them to smile or giving them an idea, preventing them from making a mistake or anything like that, if I can do that, that's going to propagate throughout the world. So having that growth mindset of I can be better and I can make the world better, even if it's just a tiny, teeny, weeny little bit every single day, that is going to be enough to ultimately have some great effect.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, what an amazing individual that you are, to wanting to work on yourself, to not just better yourself, but also better people around you and the world. I think that that's absolutely amazing. And if we can use that as motivation to be better every single day, wow, like what's holding you back, right?
Yeah. And again, it's not like you need the magic wand and you're going to transform into this, otherworldly being immediately. If you can literally get an extra 250 steps in a day, or make one extra phone call for your business, or smile at one more person per day, the universe is better because of that.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely love that. So I'm going to provide a link down below to your book that people will be able to access and start reading it and start getting excellent every day.
Hey, can I offer something to your listeners?
Go for it. Let's do it.
So if they go to the website, everyday-excellence.com, and if they decide to purchase any of the books or products that we have there, if they use the code NHP, then they will get a 10% discount off of whatever it is that they want. So this way we can help them help themselves even better.
Thank you so much. That's absolutely amazing. So yes, so Joe just offered us an absolutely amazing discount that I'll put below in the show notes that you'll be able to access. And yeah, do you have anything else to share with us before we close up for today? I mean, you've shared so much valuable information with us already that, yeah, it's just amazing.
Just the one thing that I say when I close out all my podcasts: be excellent and grow today.
I love that. Absolutely love that. Thank you so much for joining us on a Natural Health podcast. And what I say is, remember, the missing link between failure and success is your health. Content and information provided here is opinion of Mahela Raguse and is for information purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. It is not intended to provide medical advice or take the place of medical advice or any current treatment you're undertaking. Consult your own medical professionals for any medical issues that you may be having. This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to the Natural Health podcast. It is advised that you consult your doctor or healthcare professional in relation to any health concerns you may be having. Mahela Raguse does not take responsibility for any health consequences which occur from a person listening, viewing, or reading this content. And in the circumstances shall the Natural Podcast, Mahela Raguse, any guests or contributors to the Natural Podcast, or any employees, associates, or affiliates of Mahela Raguse be responsible for damages arising from the information provided on the Natural Podcast. By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice to treat any medical conditions in either yourself or others. Please note, if you're taking prescription, do not stop your medication or start a new protocol, including but not limited to supplements, diet, lifestyle changes without consulting your doctor or healthcare professional. If you or any person has a medical concern, you should consult with your healthcare provider or seek other professional medical advice. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something that you have read or heard on the Natural Podcast or in any linked materials. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or emergency services immediately. Neither Mahela Raguse nor the publisher of this content takes responsibility for the possible health consequences of any person or persons reading or listening or following the information in educational content.